Yo, thank you so much. Once again, it is the Crossover Sports Podcast coming to you live during the finals, a double feature, if you will. It is great. It is great to be back with y'all. I know we just did a podcast yesterday with for the finals, and the finals are going on right now. For those of you keeping up, it's 11-5 Cavaliers. Cavaliers coming out showing some pride. So we shall see. That look like a trouble. But you know, I'm live right now. Trey. Hopefully Matt will come in and join us, and Amina too. But go ahead and reintroduce yourself, Trey.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is no. um, what's up? CT3. Uh, I'm currently watching the game and talking at the same time on my laptop. So we'll see how this goes tonight. Uh, and I don't know. Depending on how long we go with the podcast, the game might go final while we're doing the podcast. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, man, it's one of the few times that we're live and an important game is going on. So that might diminish who comes in, or some people might have forgotten because the game's on. But we'll start. We'll start anyway. So Trey, I know the game is going on right now as we're talking, but do you believe if it does happen, and right now they're up by 9 points to Cavaliers, so it might not happen today. But do you believe that if LeBron James gets swept for the second time in his career, does that diminish his legacy to you?
I kind of touched on this last night actually. Um, for me, I think LeBron is a great player, right? He may not be the greatest of all time, but in my book, LeBron is probably the second or maybe even third greatest player of all time. Um, and that's set in stone. LeBron's legacy is set in stone right now. Like his if he gets swept, like okay, I think I mentioned this last night. I think the first time he got swept was his first finals, and we all know that Cavs team was not gonna beat the San Antonio Spurs. Like there was no way that was happening, and they got swept, right? And um, if I'm not mistaken, LeBron that was young LeBron, right? Um, I think that was the his second to last year in Cleveland. His last year in Cleveland, he lost, I think, in 5 games, I think, to Boston, and then ended up going to Miami. But when he got swept by the Spurs, there was like, that was a while ago. I think, well, that was 2007, so I was only 10 years old. I probably wasn't even really watching basketball. Um, but I do know that LeBron was a different player then, and that he had little to no help on that Cavs team, right? So he gets swept. 2 years later, he goes to Miami, loses to the Mavs, and had a similar issue in terms of the fact that everybody's like, okay, LeBron is the greatest player on the planet right now. Um, or the conversation was between him and Kobe. At that point, by the time he got to Miami, it was clear that he was the best player um, on the planet, right? So he goes to Miami and loses to the Mavs in what was it, 5 games or 6 games, and everybody expected the big three to do big things and go and like just dominate, right? And they struggled. There was chemistry issues. LeBron was just, he really shrunk in the biggest moments during that finals. And then something happened. The next year, LeBron goes and reinvents himself, right? He practiced all off season long on his post game. He really worked on his jump shot. He actually called up Hakeem Olajuwon and really practiced with him. Hakeem Olajuwon taught him some of his signature moves and that type of thing. Um, and so LeBron, at the age of I think 27 or 28, reinvented himself as a player in terms of his ability to play down low, hit that fadeaway jumper, and really have more of an inside game, which is especially important now that he's getting much older and his athleticism, whether he likes it or not, will begin to diminish, right? However, so they win the championship that year. They beat OKC, the Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant led OKC team. Then they went the next year, beat the Spurs, and then the next year lost to the Spurs, right? Then he comes back to Cleveland, loses the Warriors, beats the Warriors last year, the Warriors had blown a 3-1 lead, and now we come to this point, right? It's 3-0. The Cavs are at home and have an opportunity to at least win one game and extend the series for a little bit, right? So let's say LeBron gets swept. I do not think that LeBron's legacy is diminished. And the reason why is because LeBron is still a great player. Regardless, people talk about, if he loses this finals, he'll have lost. Everybody's going to look at him and say he lost all these finals. And now this is a different sport that I'm about to compare him to. But think about somebody like Brett Favre, right? Brett Favre has the most Peyton Manning may have overtaken him, but as far as I know, Brett Favre has thrown them during his career through the most interceptions in NFL history and only has one ring, yet he's viewed as one of the better quarterbacks of all time. Same thing with LeBron, right? LeBron, he lost 2 finals that, were really up. He was, or 3, even really 3, because the first one with the Warriors, both of his best players were injured and couldn't play for a lick. So, if you take those 2 away and he loses this one, he's what? He would be 3-5 if he lost this one. You take those 2 away, or those 3, he's like 3-2. And I know that's not reality, but LeBron James is a great player, and just because he's lost 5 out of 8 finals, that does not make him not great. LeBron consistently has dominated and played very well in the finals since the time of that, after the loss against the Mavs. He's consistently, put up 25 to 30 points, 5, 6, 7, 8 rebounds. I think last year or 2 years ago, he averaged a triple-double, even though we lost. Last year, I think, averaged something like a triple-double. So, we talk about losses in the finals. My man has 3 rings. So, to say that his legacy is diminished would insinuate that his legacy is not set in stone. And like I already said, his legacy is pretty much set in stone. And to me, I think in the minds of the media and a lot of people who watch LeBron and don't necessarily like LeBron, the haters, will say that his legacy is diminished, I think. But in my mind, in my book, his legacy is set in stone. And let's say LeBron were to retire today, before or after they get swept, even if they don't get swept, LeBron is going to the Hall of Fame no matter what, and will be looked at as one of the greatest top 5 players in NBA history. And as soon as he's eligible, as soon as he retires, whenever he retires, let's say he retired today, he would be and he's eligible to be in the Hall of Fame immediately. He's first ballot Hall of Famer, no question about that. So to say that his like I said, and because I'm starting to ramble now, like I said, his legacy will not diminish, because his legacy is set in stone. To say that his legacy will diminish is to say that his legacy is not set in stone, and that somehow, because he lost one more final, even though he has 3 rings, that he's still fighting for his legacy.
Let me just say this: his legacy it is set in stone, but it still will somewhat diminish, just because that would make him the second person with an MVP to lose 5 finals. It's just like the Magic Johnson thing. Magic went to 9 finals, lost 5, won 4, right? So it's back to what I said last night too. Like Magic Johnson, LeBron compares way more favorably to Magic Johnson than he does to Michael Jordan and Kobe. And that's personality trait. I don't really understand why people put him in the Jordan lane or the Kobe lane because he's not there. And that's not just because he doesn't have the killer instinct. That's just because he's not that type of player. He's more of a unselfish player who wants to make his teammates better. And that's not to say that Michael Jordan or Kobe didn't want to make their teammates better, but they were very competitive players, very about their legacy, and again making sure that their teams were successful through them being the main guy. LeBron is not that type of player. And so if LeBron does get swept or he loses in 5 games, whatever happens, it does kind of take a hit on his legacy a little bit because, again, you can't be a person that has that people, and it's through no fault of his own, but you can't be a person that people are comparing to Michael Jordan and lose that many finals. It just can't happen. Magic Johnson and all of them had the benefit of Michael Jordan being a young player and not really being at his goatness when they were playing. But now Michael Jordan is like the king on the board, and then there's Kobe. I mean, he's still top 3, but he won't be a GOAT. Like it just can't happen. You can't lose 5. You can be top 3, top 4, and lose 5 finals because Magic Johnson proves that. But you can't be any comparing yourself to Michael Jordan in any way, or in your interviews playing to it and saying I'm chasing Jordan and you lose in 5 finals. It just cannot. It can't be that way. That's not the way this goes. And we can take out finals, but either way, you still lose 5 finals. And LeBron is a great player. Athletically, nobody can touch him, but he's losing a step. It's obvious in these finals too that he's lost something. So you're gonna see whether they lose, whether they get swept. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because they're up by 16, but they still could lose. If they do lose tonight, then the legacy set in stone. He's a player that brought a championship to Cleveland, but he goes from, he was never in this conversation to me, but he goes from, to most people being the GOAT to just being a top 3 player, which isn't bad, but it's not where he wants to be. Trey, I'm going to let you get back in.
For me, it's like, look. So to me, I think my argument stems from the fact that as much as I like Jordan, and as much as I do think that Jordan probably is the greatest of all time, you got to think about some of the other accomplishments that LeBron James has. 8 finals in a row. Jordan never did that. Yeah, okay. Michael had 6, right? Never lost the finals. All right. I mean, it's not like, see, the thing about the difference between Michael and Jordan and their teams is that people always forget, to be honest with you, that Michael Jordan, it wasn't like Michael Jordan was playing with nobodies. Michael Jordan was playing with some very, very, very good players. And LeBron was as well. I think LeBron just there's certain periods in his timeline of going to the finals that the other team was just the better team. We put this kind of like onus or whatever you want to call it on the players, as if like, okay, I can understand, like, okay, you can take over a game, right, and win a game for your team, right? But in the NBA Finals, there's no such thing as one player winning you the finals. We're seeing with the Warriors that the addition of Kevin Durant is significantly helping them. But look at the score right now. Cavs are at home, and it's they're up by like 20. So I mean, one player is not going to. I mean, excuse me, one player is not going to carry a team through the finals. It's a team effort, and Michael Jordan had some very good teams in those 2 three-peats that he had. I think another difference between Michael and LeBron is, I think you kind of mentioned it last night, Kylan, is that LeBron doesn't really have. He's not a killer. He's not a killer instinct type of player. Um, he doesn't have, like, he's not like Kobe in terms of that killer instinct, or even Michael. But I don't like. But LeBron is. It's not like. What am I trying to say? He doesn't have that killer instinct the way that Kobe or Michael or even Carmelo has. But LeBron has these moments, and you can see it, where he kind of turns on this switch where he goes from being, he does it, it's from regular season to playoffs, usually is when you see it. He goes from playing very, very good, like, for example, this year, I mean, he's 32, and he did something that most players don't do at the age of 32. But what he'll do is, he'll kind of coast for the regular season and still put up good stats. And then when it comes to playoff time, he kind of goes beast mode, right? And he'll start putting up 30 points. He'll start having 30, 35-point games and getting triple doubles, right? And you see him being more aggressive, and passing less than he usually does. He'll go and grab more rebounds. He'll take over a little bit more than he usually does. And every once in a while he'll defer a little bit, but that's because LeBron is, people say that he doesn't have this killer instinct. LeBron is a different type of player than Michael, right? LeBron is a point forward, right? Michael wasn't really a point. I mean, he wasn't. As far as I know, I mean, Michael was a solid passer. He would make the right pass. But LeBron is on another level in terms of his vision and stuff like that. So there's times when LeBron is not looking to score. Michael was, for the majority of the time, 95%, 90% of the time, Michael was looking to score. He was not looking to pass. So that's the difference between Michael and LeBron. And so when you're talking about somebody being the GOAT, I mean, maybe LeBron isn't the GOAT, right? But, I mean, he sure as heck has a case for it. I don't think losing 5 finals says to me that he can't be the great. Like, it's not like he went to 5 finals and lost all of them. He went to 8. He's gone to 8 and won 3 of them, and that's very hard to do, right? He lost to a very, very good Warriors team. He got beat by a Spurs team when he was way in the beginning of his career with a really bad team. It beat by a team that should have beat him last year, right? That added a perennial all-star and probably somebody who's going to be a Hall of Famer. So I mean, although Jordan went up against some great players, so is LeBron, and I don't think we can diminish his legacy because he lost more finals than Michael. Everybody's lost more finals than Michael. Michael didn't lose any, and I don't think that Michael didn't lose finals. See, I think this is another thing. We automatically assume that, oh, Michael is the GOAT because he never lost. Think about it. Michael Jordan has 6 rings, right? He played, what, 13 years, I think? So that means 7 out of his 13 years in the league, he didn't make it to the finals. And I'm sure there were plenty of times where he didn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I mean, I guess I'm getting in. I'm topic, but I guess I'm going off a little bit topic, but I mean, that's my thought process, really.
Let me just say, all true. But Michael Jordan, the reason why Michael Jordan is the GOAT isn't just because of the rings, it's because of the cultural significance of how he changed the game. LeBron LeBron is this era's GOAT because he did change the game. He changed the game in more ways that he likes to take credit for. He's the reason why everybody want to join up now. Uh, he's the reason, and even though that's something that's historical, that's something that people draft, trade, and get free agents all the time. But drafting and having two or three all stars on one team, that's something LeBron did. And, he is he's a top three player, right? But as I said, you can't see. This is why I say he compares favorably to Magic Johnson, right? Magic is a top five player, right? Like when you're starting your top three, when you start your top five, you're usually your fifth or fourth player is Magic. That's exactly where LeBron is. LeBron is in that lane of he's a top five player, but he's not the GOAT. Why is he not the GOAT? He's not the GOAT not just because of finals records. It's the same reason why, Trey brought up earlier Brett Favre. It's the same reason why Brett Favre may be considered by some to be the best QB ever. But the best QB ever is always Johnny Unitas. Johnny Unitas didn't win a championship, but Johnny Unitas changed the game. And Michael Jordan changed the game, right? Not saying that LeBron didn't change the game, because he definitely has changed the game, as I pointed out, not just on the court, but he's changed it off the court, because now he's retooled the era of players coming together, and the coming together era was all LeBron, right? Before him it was Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and all of them, but LeBron really revitalized it, and that's something that he's got to take heat for, which is why I don't know why people are killing Kevin Durant for doing something that LeBron started. But that's a topic for later on in this podcast. But LeBron is a great player, like I said, but he's in that Magic Johnson lane, top four, top five, not just because of final records, but just because when you think about it, you think of, okay, other than if I take away the body type, right, would I consider him a better player than Kobe Bryant? And we already know most people are not going to consider him better than Jordan. It's just not going to happen. So then the next question is, if number one is Jordan, the second on most people's list is Kobe. So can you honestly say that LeBron James, outside of body type, is a better player than Kobe? Right? And to me, I can't really do that, because LeBron James is a triple double all the time, which is why I say he compares to Magic Johnson, because that's what Magic Johnson was. Magic Johnson was a great player who could get his teammates involved. He's exactly what LeBron. That's why I say LeBron James is really a bigger version of Magic. That's what he is. He is Magic Johnson. That's what he is, right? Just like to me, Kevin Durant, if I'm going to compare him to somebody that he reminds me of, Kevin Durant is a slimmer version to me of Larry Bird, because he can do everything that Larry Bird can do, and that's a comparison that I'm willing to make. Magic Johnson compares better to LeBron James, and I'm rambling too, but to me, like, I am one person, and this is why I say you're going to get the real sports takes here. This is unbiased and very objective views of this. Like not Kevin Durant. LeBron James is a great player, but most people get the comparisons wrong. He compares more favorably to Magic Johnson than he does any of the top two players on your list. Like, he doesn't compare well to Michael Jordan, because, as Trey pointed out, Michael Jordan was 6-0. Michael Jordan was a better scorer. Michael Jordan had the killer instinct. He doesn't really compare to Kobe either, because the same thing I just said about Michael Jordan, you can still say the same thing about Kobe, right? And LeBron James, like I said, top three, top four, right? But he's not going to be in your top two, because there's always a Michael Jordan and a Kobe Bryant. and that's just not gonna do it. And that's not just finals record. That's overall things. Like I will say this though, LeBron probably had more of an impact on the game and the culture than Kobe did, which is the arguable point. But as far as to me, what compares to GOAT is, he's a great player, good player, but like I said, he's a player who compares way more favorably to Magic than any other player on your top 5 list. So moving right along, we're gonna go. Ooh, get it, Miggy. We're gonna go to the other big story that broke yesterday, James Kobe's testimony, and we're gonna cover it from this. So Trey, who do you believe? Do you believe Comey or do you believe Trump?
Well, it's I mean this whole situation is a mess, to be honest. We talked about it a while ago. With Comey being fired while Trump was under an investigation for the whole Russia thing. And I mean it's just I don't know who you listen to, right? It's like, okay, do I listen to Trump, a man who has been known and who's a known liar? um and now you got Comey, and Comey was potentially lying about some stuff that was going on with Russia, and so I mean, it's a tough situation. I was reading an article earlier about the New York Times, and I think it was talking about Trump, and you know, I don't know. It's just I think this whole situation is very ironic, because during the whole campaign, all Trump kept saying about Hillary was, he kept pointing out her emails, these emails. She's a liar. She's a liar. She's a liar, right? She's, she's a liar. She's not. I think at some point he actually even went back to the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, um, with, but she's a liar, right? She's a liar. If she lied about the emails, she'll lie in the office, right? And now Trump is president, and all he's done is lie. Somebody says he says this, somebody says he said this, and then he says, no, I didn't say this. And you're like, no, we have proof that you said this. He's like, nah, fake news. Huh? No, wait, no, we have proof that you said this. And he denies it, right? So it's just very ironic that we're in this situation where, I mean, it's clear that Trump has lied about a lot of things. I'm not just specifically talking about this whole Comey trial and Russia or anything. I'm talking about just everything. And so for me, I mean, that is like, how can you trust a guy like that? But then on the whole Comey thing, the fact that Trump is saying that Comey lied under oath, and that he called him a leaker. So I don't know, it's just it's a very tough situation, to be honest with you. I don't know all the details of the Comey trial. I didn't listen to his testimony or really looked at the details of his testimony. When I do, I mean, I can't imagine that I'm gonna say, "Oh yeah, I believe Comey," or "Oh yeah, I definitely believe Trump," because I mean, this whole just has been nothing but lies. And when that happens, I mean, you lose trust. Um, I mean, that's true with anything. You know, you're, I mean, this is true in parenting. Your mom or dad tells you not to do this, you do it. They're disappointed in you and they lose trust, right? So they got to take your phone or whatever the case may be. And because they don't trust you to do or not to do whatever it is they told you not to do. But President Trump, even Comey, you swear under oath not to lie, or you put yourself in a position where you must be truthful, and then you lie and get caught lying, and now the people lose trust in you, and they can't. It's a tough situation where you lose trust in the people who are supposed to be the most trustworthy. And it's terrible, but so I mean that's as far as I can really go without just because of my lack of knowledge about Comey's testimony itself.
Yeah, as far as how I feel about that, I obviously am going to believe Comey because I didn't hear the testimony either. I was working, unfortunately. Work got in the way of the political Super Bowl, right? But James Comey, in his testimony, from what I heard from the highlights of it, it seemed like he was much more of a credible witness than Donald Trump, because as Trey said, Donald Trump has been caught in lies a lot. In the campaign, during the campaign, and currently as president, he's been caught lying to us. Now, the one thing he didn't lie about, at least at the time, was that James Comey, James Comey did tell him 3 times that he was not under investigation. But obviously, that has changed since now he is very much the subject of an investigation. Now, a lot of people will say, well, he told him that was in January, February, and March. Then he fired him, and if he wasn't under investigation before, once he fired him, he sure as heck should have been under investigation after that, right? Because there's no way you fire somebody, especially the head of the investigation of something that's investigating you. Like, it doesn't take that much brain power to realize that. Most people would say, okay, I can't fire the person that's investigating me because then it looks like I'm trying to hide something. So just on the basis of Comey getting fired and the fact of Donald Trump saying after a week later, like not even a couple of days later after they visited that I fired Comey because of the Russia thing. He admitted that on national television. He admitted that to the Russian ambassadors when they came to the Oval Office, that he fired James Comey because of the Russia thing. Like, there is no if, ands, or but about that. That's what he did. That's what he admitted. So, the reason he's fired, that's the reason that they fired him. So it's not, there's nothing that you can really say to that. So, they're letting a lot of calls go here. But you see that a lot in the in this political game, and the trial is really just starting. Like, because it's going to ramp up. There's going to be more shoes and bombs dropping during this trial. So it's not just going to be James Comey. I'm sure they're interviewing Jared Kushner next week. So there will be more. This is just the first of many. So that is what it is. So Trey, you got anything else to add?
No, I mean, I understand. I hear what you're saying. I just haven't really looked at his testimony at all yet. So once I do, then I can make a more educated decision about. But I probably will end up trusting Comey more just because of how much Trump has lied in the past and how untrustworthy he has been so far.
Moving right along, then. I have penciled in NBA Finals game 1 through 3 analysis, but I guess since it's currently going on right now, and though Trey's not watching it live, you know, what do you say?
I'm getting it kind of live. I'm watching on online, and it's lagging behind by it's I think 15 seconds or so.
All right, well, what are you saying, man?
I'm seeing that the Cavs they got, I don't know where it is right now live, but quarter looks like it's about to be over. Cavs got almost 50 points in the first quarter, which that's crazy. But I see a lot of, I mean, like you even said it while talking about Kobe. They're letting a lot of calls go on both sides. And I don't know, it looks like a weird game so far.
Yeah.
Like it looked like the Cavs are all. I mean, there are some questionable calls, but the Cavs are just like they're playing all over the place. They're playing more loose because they're like, I mean, what do they got to lose? Like, I mean, like just go out there and play, right? You might get swept tonight, so just go out there and play your hardest. They just showed a graphic. 48. It's at 48 points, which is the most points in a quarter in the finals history. So.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, it's not. Oh, were you done? You can keep going. My bad.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is I'm seeing the Cavs expending a lot of energy, and this missed free throw 17 is not enough. So if 8 wasn't enough, you know, if 7 points wasn't enough, now listen, like if you are somebody like most not basketball, I won't say basketball fans, but like most fans, if you're watching this, you're thinking that there's no way the Warriors can come back. But you have to remember that there's 36 more minutes left in this game to play, and this is not enough because the Cavaliers are missing free throws. And that's going to come back to bite them like it did last game. Ooh, Steph Curry almost hit that. But you know, if you're the Cavaliers, you're happy right now. You have a 16-point lead, and you know you've come out, you've hit the Warriors in the mouth, and now you just wait for their response for the next 3 quarters because you know the response is coming, and you know you have the Cavs really spending a lot of energy, and you know it is playing at a slower pace, but eventually the pace will pick up, and the Cavaliers will wear out. Because, like I said, this is not 17 is not enough, and the Spurs can tell you that if 25 wasn't enough to beat the Warriors, 17 is definitely not enough. So, you know, if I'm the Cavaliers, you're getting exactly what you want. J.R. Smith has awakened, Tristan Thompson has awakened, but it's really not enough, especially now. This is money time when the second quarter starts. You're gonna have Kevin Durant and Steph Curry on the bench. And if you don't add to that 17-point lead after that, then you're just not gonna. This is what killed the Cavs the last time. They couldn't take advantage of it because eventually LeBron has to go off, Kyrie has to go off, and they have to get a break. And they'll wear down. You know, it is an unfortunate reality that, you know, Golden State is really just biding their time right now. I mean, they are missing shots. They're letting a lot of calls go. I counted a couple of moving screens and ones that should have been for the Warriors, especially when Klay Thompson hit a 3. There's been a couple of missed foul calls on Steph Curry because he gets held basically every time in the finals. But you know they don't call it. But you know they're missing a lot. It's not gonna be if you're a Cavaliers fan right now, you're happy, but you shouldn't really be happy because you know 7 points wasn't enough, and now you've increased it by 10, but it's still really not enough. Go ahead, Trey. I'm gonna let you get back in.
I think you're right. The Warriors will probably come back. Like, this is not going to turn into an actual blowout. It looked like it might be, but I would. Yeah, I mean, the Warriors are going to come back. The question is whether or not or when will um, Kevin Love, LeBron James, and Kyrie and the rest of the team, when will they wear out and then allow the Warriors to take the lead, or will they tonight? Um, I don't know. They may not. It looks like Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith are kind of getting back into their groove tonight, at least. So maybe the Warriors come back, but um, the Cavs are able to withstand the comeback. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean, we definitely will see. I mean, it's we shall see. Uh, so Trey is winning a title, whether that's tonight or sometime within the next 3 days. Does winning a title validate KD's decision?
Well, I talked about this the other. I mean, there's really two main sides to the conversation about Kevin Durant and what people think about what he did. Right? There's the people who think that they hate KD because you know now the Warriors are like unbeatable, blah 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 blah. And KD left. The whole idea of you can't join if you can't beat them, you join them, right? And a lot of people can't stand that, right? Now, on the other hand, there are people who are like, hey, Kevin Durant did what he needed to do to go win a championship, right? He saw that the Warriors are a very good team, right? And he felt that it was best for him. Excuse me. He felt like it was best for him to go and join the Warriors rather than staying on the the Thunder. Um, so for me, I don't I feel Kevin Durant, right? So Kevin Durant wants to win a ring, and he did the best. He made the best decision for him to win a ring, right? Because it's very likely that he will get a ring this year. Um, on the other hand, it's weird because people. I think a lot of times we end up putting blame on LeBron James for starting this whole um, like player, top players joining up, and I do think it's a little bit different than what it was then because I mean there were teams like for example think about the big three in Boston. You had Kevin Garnett, Rondo, Ray Allen, right, and Paul Pierce. It was really a big four. People just didn't really respect Rondo the way um, enough to at least have to say that was a big four. But to be honest, that was a big four right there, right? And you had um, other teams, going back. You had Run TMC, right? There were other teams going way back where there were two or three, maybe even four players on the team that were all stars or were close to being all stars, right? But the Warriors, and the problem I have right here is that you got four players who are all stars, right? On the same team in the same conference. And it's like, okay, the team is basically unbeatable. Um, and I do not think that they're ruining basketball. I don't, I totally disagree with that because people are still watching this game. Cavs fans are still watching this game. Warriors fans are still watching this game and they're enjoying it, right? Because if you love basketball, you're going to watch it. Now, there are times where you're watching the game and you're like, this is just straight up boring. But People are still watching it. I do think at times though that watching the Warriors blow somebody out it gets kind of boring because you're like, for them it doesn't. They're when you're on the court and you're blowing a team out, you get excited. You're hyped. But for fans, at some point it gets kind of boring. You're like, okay, I kind of want somebody to challenge them. And as a Miami Heat fan, those 4 years we had the big three. I mean, you look at it and it was like, okay, you got Chris Bosh, D Wade, and LeBron James on the same team. But at no point did I think that it was unfair that they were all on the same team, right? Because in my opinion, the big three in Miami, and even the big three here in Cleveland are a little bit different than the big three or the big four really in Golden State. The reason why is, first of all, Steph Curry is probably the greatest three-point shooter of all time. Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers of all time. Klay Thompson is one of the better shooters of all time, and Draymond Green is going to go down as one of the better hype men / defensive / rebounding guys in history, right? So that's 4 players on one team that are all going to go down in history as their own little thing, right? And with the big three here in Cleveland, and in Miami, you had an all-star Chris Bosh who had to shoot threes. Basically, he had to become a three-point shooter, and a Dwayne Wade who was towards the end of his prime and was injury prone. In Cleveland, what does he got? Kevin Love, injury prone. Kyrie Irving, injury prone. Great, or at least Kyrie has been great when he's been healthy. But Kevin Love, injury prone, and until this year hadn't played very well and hadn't meshed well. The Warriors haven't had that issue for the most part because everybody's shooter, with the exception of Draymond. Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph are all shooters, and they mesh well together in that way. They can and they can all defer to each other. With big three in Cleveland and Miami, it's a different type of big three, and different circumstances as well. So I think that's where, for me, it's not like it makes the game boring for me. Sometimes it does. I just don't like the idea of 4 players. 3, it seems like I'm being petty almost, but the difference between 3 players and 4 players is a big difference. When you have Kevin Durant, who's for all intents and purposes is probably the second best player in the league, or maybe you say Steph. You got 2. Let's say that right now, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry are 3 of the top 5 players in the league right now. You got 2 of the top 5 in the league right now on the same team. You cannot say that of either big threes that LeBron James has been part of. Dwayne Wade at that point in Miami was not top 5 in the NBA, nor was Chris Bosh. Kyrie Irving is not top 5 in the league, and neither is Kevin Love. You got 2 people on the same team that are top 5 in the league. I mean, that speaks for itself. And I'm not sure what's going on. It looks okay. There we go. Colin is back. I don't know. I guess my Colin, can you hear me? We're having some technical difficulties. Colin, can you hear me? Or am I still breaking up?
Yeah. Yeah. What did you say? You broke up a little bit, so I didn't really hear you.
How much did you miss?
You were talking about the big 4 and everything, but you were breaking up, and then it said it was something with my connection for some reason. So
Well, I was talking about the big four, and the big, and with the Warriors, you got two players on the same team that are probably top five in the league. LeBron never really had that. And so in terms of watchability, sometimes that gets a little bit boring for me. Because it's like I'm watching two players who are top five in the league on the same team, and so their ability to dominate is that much greater than it is for whoever else they're playing, and at this point, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm not saying that, like, I mean, it's still fun to watch it sometimes, but other times it gets boring because they dominate in so many ways.
You like the adrenaline of it, running hot with the blue lights going.
I would say yes, 100%. Yeah,
See that in her character?
yeah, that's who she was.
It was under those flashing lights back in 2002 that Ann met West Hall.
Colin, you go ahead.
Oh yeah. So to me, no, I don't. I think it does validate his decision because what most people fail to realize is that you know, they didn't make that when he made that decision. Some people feel it. Some people feel, and rightly so, that it was an indictment of Russell Westbrook. It wasn't just an indictment of Russell Westbrook, though. It was an indictment of that whole organization. Something that most people don't get, and that's why I said there's the micro part and the macro part of his decision. To use an economics term, right? So the micro or the macro is the stuff that you can see. Micro is the stuff you can't see. So the macro, a lot of people see the macro of his decision. They say, "Oh, he's leaving because, let's be real, who really wants to play with Russell Westbrook? He is a gun. He is a gun. He doesn't. He gets triple doubles, but his triple doubles are triple doubles where they force him to pass it. It's not really something where he's happy to pass the ball. He's not like an Allen Iverson type, and Allen Iverson was a person who tried to get players involved, but if they passed him the ball, then to him, and this is something that he's famously quoted for, is saying, they passed me the ball back, then they obviously didn't want to shoot it. So, that is something, that is a quote that, they're just making threes that they have no business making. But he's famously quoted as saying that, that just means that they didn't want to shoot it. So, this is where we are, man. It's the macro is Russell Westbrook. Now, what you don't see, and what probably to me at least, in my analysis of his decision, was the nail in the coffin was when they traded Serge Ibaka. Because let's be real, just like what goes on with the Cavaliers, and it took till this series for it to show up, but it's really been showing up all playoffs, is the fact that their offense can't cover up the fact that they don't play defense. So, you can't cover up the fact that no matter how good LeBron and Kyrie are, just like last game, they couldn't cover up the fact that once the Warriors started creeping back, that the Cavs have no defense. That's what it is. The Cavs have no defense. And you can say it the way you want it, but the main reason why the Cavaliers are no competition for the Warriors is no matter what they do, their offense can never cover up the fact that they can't play defense. They can't stop. Right now the Warriors are missing shots, but they can't stop Steph Curry. And I got way off the topic. But the nail in the coffin was for KD, I believe, and why he made his decision so early is because once they traded Serge Ibaka, there was no reason for him to come back. And so why do I say Serge Ibaka was important? Because the reason the Cavaliers, the reason why the Thunder were up 3-1 over the Warriors was because they employed the Memphis Grizzlies strategy, which was we're going to keep our big men, especially Serge Ibaka, in the paint. And with a nickname like a blocker, he'll block shots. And so he kept the Warriors out of the paint. But eventually the Warriors had a workaround around that. And once they figured out the workaround, then it was over for the Thunder because then they were relying on Russell Westbrook, because this is what a lot of people don't get about Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is a turnover machine. nobody likes, if you are a true basketball fan, you're not just a blind loyalist. Most people do not like the way Russell Westbrook plays basketball because when you come down to the dollars and cents of it, like it happened when he faced the Thunder, when they faced the Rockets, when it came down to the dollar cents of it is triple doubles don't mean nothing. I've said this on this podcast before, and we've all agreed. Triple doubles don't mean nothing if they don't lead to wins. And if you're doing all them triple doubles and you're still wind up 6th seed and you get one game, I believe they got. Trey, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they got swept, but I believe they got one game against the Rockets. And it meant nothing. So what was missing? It wasn't just Kevin Durant that was missing. It was Serge Ibaka. He was missing. They didn't have a defensive presence. And yeah, Steven Adams is a good rebounder, but he doesn't give you defense. Like that's ultimately what it always comes down to with the Thunder. The Thunder at one point had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook on the same team and only got to one finals. Like for real, they only got to one finals. Only got to one finals. Like I cannot overstate this enough. 9 years and one finals, right? I mean that's about what LeBron James had, but that's still 9 years and one finals. So why do we act like this decision was so bad for basketball if LeBron James made the same decision? Yeah. A lot of people say it's a different situation, but it's not really a different situation. They both led bad situations. It's just the difference was, when you have to pick up record, you're not really in a good state when it comes to arguing, because then the argument isn't that you're in the state. If you're arguing record, then you're not really making a good argument, because the record is the record no matter what. So what if the Heat only were the 6th seed when LeBron came, right? The fact of the matter is he still front ran the 2 championships. Like until last year, he was front running the 2 championships. Say what you will, and they're showing them now. Dwayne Wade allowed LeBron James to get 2 championships riding off of his coattails. That's what happened. And until last year, he's got 3 championships. Two of them were Dwayne Wade and Ray Allen. The other and the one is his. So, if we're gonna say that Kevin Durant did this, it's history. This is not the first time top 4 players have been together. Showtime Lakers, anybody. Bird Celtics, anybody. This is not the first time that top 4, top 5, top 10 players have been together and it's been unfair. There was a reason why the Lakers and Celtics kept meeting in the finals, because their dearth of talent was way more than everybody else's. Kevin Durant, if he gets a title, it does validate his decision, because it says everything that he wants to say to the Thunder, which is this: I went to a team with a better GM and a better owner who's willing to take risks and who's willing to do what it takes to win. Like for real, what they're saying is the triumvirate, Russell Westbrook and the GM and the owner, the three main people of the Thunder, the 3 faces of the Thunder, didn't do enough to keep Kevin Durant there. I don't understand why every time a player moves, we want to blame the player. How about we blame the owner? I mean, the only time we really blame the owner is when Dan Gilbert wrote that letter. But the only reason we blame Dan Gilbert was because he wrote that letter, which made him sound like a slave owner, right? But if it's not as plain as that, it seems like a lot of people's balls don't drop when it comes to blaming. Because most of the time when these players are leaving, they're not leaving because they want to leave. They're leaving because the owners and the GM didn't do enough to keep them. I mean, it really is as simple as that. They didn't do enough to keep them. The owners of the Thunder and Russell Westbrook only have themselves to blame, because if Russell Westbrook really wanted Kevin Durant to stay, he should have said, listen, I want y'all to do everything that help us have a complete team so we can compete against the Warriors, because trading away Serge Ibaka for Victor Oladipo didn't do it. And that showed this year. It didn't do it. Trey, I'm going to let you back in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't necessarily say that um well, I'll say that I'm not mad at Kevin Durant for making the decision he made to come to the Warriors. Um, is there a part of me that doesn't really like it? Yeah. But I mean, I can't be mad at a player for leaving a team that, he, like you said, only made the finals once in 8 or 9 years. Um, he left that team to go to a team that had already won a championship, and had an opportunity to win another one. So I can't blame him to for wanting to leave. And I mean, it's likely that, like I said, it's likely that they'll win this year, and so it's. I mean, and unless something crazy happens and the Cavs win, and then the Warriors never win another championship, Kevin Durant made the right decision. Simple as that.
It is, but if I can rant, that's because we're logical sports fans. A lot of people don't look at this logically. You have the people like and I love Stephen A. I'm a fan of Stephen A. But Stephen A. Smith who don't look at it logically. And for real, I've been dissing Stephen A. Smith a lot on this. Well, not really dissing, but I've been critiquing Stephen A. Smith's performance a lot lately, and that's just because I feel like he doesn't look at stuff logically anymore. With Kevin Durant, and Matt's here, but with Kevin Durant, right? You're not looking at stuff logically. The logical part of this is this, right? It really is just this simple. It doesn't matter record, it doesn't matter anything else, right? As I just laid out, just look at it simply like this: 8 and 9 years of being in one place and only one finals appearance. Only one finals appearance, right? That's literally like staying in a job for 20 years and never getting promoted. Like that is literally what it is. What that decision, if you want to make a everyday comparison, that's where it is right there. Like that's like staying at a job for 20 years and never getting promoted. Right? Dead end as dead end can be. Right? And so, when you look at stuff logically and you're not mad like you're not mad like a Stephen A. Smith who reported, erroneously, and Kevin Durant called him out on it, that said, he was, I forget what Kevin Durant was mad about that turned Stephen A. off. Trey, do you remember? I think it was something like Stephen A. said that last year or something that he was definitely going to go to the Lakers, and Kevin Durant called him out on it, did something.
I don't know. I can't remember.
He did something that caused Kevin Durant and his team to come at him and say, "Listen, you're reporting erroneous information. Stop reporting erroneous information." Right? Essentially, that's what it was. Right? And ever since then, he's been killing Kevin Durant. And I don't know if it's something personal where he didn't want to be called out in a public manner like that. But when you're reporting erroneous information, you're reporting erroneous information. But I don't like people who don't look at stuff objectively. Like, I don't like people who say Kevin Durant's killing the league when, like I said, it was Kevin Garnett, even though he was traded, he forced his way to Boston, just like Carmelo Anthony forced his way to New York. He forced his way to Boston to form a Big Four. LeBron left and went to Miami. So it's really been, if you really want to make a comparison, it's the players that came out of high school, didn't go anywhere with their original teams, that left their teams and went somewhere else to ride two other great players or three other great players to get the championships. Like I said, this is not the first time that four great players, and I'll bring it up again because everybody wants these times again, so I'll bring it up again. Showtime Lakers. What do you think that was? 4, 5 great players on one team. Bird Celtics. What was that? Super teams. All super teams. 90s Bulls. Super teams. They were all teams with two.
Don't get me started.
With 2, 3, or 4 great players on the team, right? And maybe it's because, we were still under this false assumption of parity because there's no such thing as parity in the NBA or in any other sport. I'm sick of hearing that. Oh, there's no parity in the NBA anymore. There never was parity in the NBA, right?
I gotta stop you there on that one, particularly with the Bulls, bro. Cause those pieces around Jordan and Pippen.
Listen, here's the fact of the matter, man. When you win 6 titles or you go to a finals 6 straight years, a la Celtics and Lakers, you could argue that, back then there was more superstar depth in different places and everybody was spread out, but it still amounted to the same thing. Basically, when the Lakers and Celtics were at their powerful, you knew they were going to meet in the finals, just like we know probably for the next 4 to 5 years, unless something drastically changes with the Cleveland Cavaliers, that every year from now until whenever Steph Curry and Kevin Durant get out of their primes, they won't be in the finals. Like this is what it is, man. This is the Celtics and the Lakers, just with 2 different teams, 2 dominant teams meeting in the finals. It's history. It's literally 2016 and 2017 is history repeating in the larger sense. Like it really is history repeating itself. But Matt, I'm gonna let you win. We're on. Does winning a title validate KD's decision?
Validate what? Let's ask that question. Validate what? A career? Look, you do make a good point. The fact that you know what, you went somewhere else to have a better opportunity, and that's what happened. What doesn't validate anyone's career? He's one of the top in the world. It's not top 2. So what? My question is, who or what needs validation? That's my thing. This man is as we've seen, and we're looking at it as we speak, is one of the most talented players in the world. Title or not, but having a title does solidify your career in the NBA, being the top 2, top 3. It does solidify it. It does have some type of standing. However, with that being said, him being in Golden State right now as we speak gives him a better opportunity to win the title versus where he was at OKC. Could he have won it in Oklahoma City? Maybe. However, him being in Golden State makes it's a better opportunity. And on top of that, for Golden State, they felt as though they need another piece to get back to the finals where as of right now and do the thing. You cannot hate either Golden State nor Kevin Durant for the move they made. Golden State needed another player to restock and retool to get back to where they need to go, which is the NBA Finals right now as we speak. And Kevin Durant was hungry to for a title, and Golden State provided it. Now, if you went to Cleveland, then all hell would have broke loose, but not the case. So, with that being said, I mean, look, solidification more than likely, but still, come on.
All right, moving on, and I'll just wrap it up like this. All right, as I said, I used the real life example of, does anybody stay in a place 20 years and does not get a promotion? So when anybody's criticizing these athletes, I feel like they need to look at it from the perspective of, don't blame the athlete, blame the owner, the GM, and in this case, the other star player on the team for not doing enough to keep them there. Just like if somebody moves jobs, I don't blame the person for moving a job. Who do I blame? I blame the people. I blame the middle management and upper management who didn't see the value in that person to keep them there. Once you are someplace, it is the job of that place, as long as you are doing your job. That's the important caveat here. As long as you're doing your job, to keep you, give you a reason to stay, not for you to do your thing for 20 years, not get any added benefit, and to not see anything. Oh, they're finally calling holding on them holding Steph Curry. It took them forever on this in this game, but there is just things that you have to solidify. And to Matt's point, it solidifies. It doesn't, in my view, it doesn't solidify his decision, because his decision was validated to me when he left. Because, like I said earlier, and Matt probably missed it, it validated. It wasn't an indictment. It wasn't just an indictment of Russell Westbrook. It was an indictment of the whole Thunder organization, from not paying James Harden the $4 million to ultimately and culminating in them trading Serge Ibaka and then being like, okay, Kevin, it's all on you, man. You gotta play defense. You gotta find a way to coexist with the ultimate gun, and you just gotta do it, man. You just really gotta do it, dog. I don't blame him for leaving. He doesn't want to be in that LeBron lane, the do it all lane. It's not a lane that you want to be in. So I can fully understand why you wouldn't want to be in that lane. And so, like I said, it is what it is. But we're moving right along. Let's see. So what's been better, the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals? And I have to give credit to some friends for this one before I let somebody go. Somebody put this on my Facebook and Twitter. I believe it was on ESPN, because I think Charles Barkley said it. But go ahead. We'll give Charles Barkley his 15 minutes. Go ahead, Matt. This is your lane right here.
Let's see here. Honestly, the Stanley Cup between the Stanley Cup final and the NBA Finals, I'm gonna take the Stanley Cup on this one. Other than that 6-0 blowout in Game 5, which I test and hate, it has the Stanley Cup Finals this year has a lot more theater and a lot more on court / on ice drama. There's a lot more drama there. In fact, last night, even though it was a blowout 6-0, 3 fights occurred in that game, and it was more like sending a message to look, even though we got butts handed, we're not going to back down on Game 6 going to Smashville or Nashville. Versus watching this, I mean, don't get me wrong. Right now, Golden State down 20. I mean, Golden State down 20 is nothing. Now 18. So, in terms of theater, and both sports have their best player playing in their respective leagues right now. I'm not saying the Stanley Cup Finals is I would say a lot better, but it's better as far as drama, and as far as unpredictability. Like everybody in my news gonna be Cleveland Golden State. We all knew it. Versus hockey, it's like, okay, Pittsburgh, either Pittsburgh or Washington, versus somebody in the West. Somebody. Could have been Edmonton. So the Stanley Cup Finals has had a lot more theater. It's a lot more competitive than this.
Trey is all you.
Plus, this game is ungodly right now.
My bad, y'all. I kind of nodded off. Um, for me, I mean, I ain't never really paid attention to hockey at all. I would have liked this finals to be a little bit more competitive, just because a competitive basketball game tends to be more interesting. Um, but I have kind of been looking at the box scores for some of the hockey games in Stanley Cup Finals, I heard, um, I was it Game 5 or Game 6, man, that blowout where Nashville blew out the Penguins, 6-0 or whatever.
It
Other
was
than that,
Pittsburgh
it looks like
that
right,
beat
yeah,
the Smashville.
oh right. Pittsburgh blew out Nashville. It's I mean, other than that, it seems like that's been pretty competitive. But I mean, I can't really speak on that because I mean, all I've watched really is the NBA Finals, just because I don't really pay attention to hockey.
I mean, I don't really pay attention to hockey either, but just based on what I'm seeing, as much as I hate to admit this, I got to give it somewhat to hockey because hockey has had more competitive games. They've had, at least with Nashville and Pittsburgh, it's competitive. Most people, I mean, I kind of figured based on where Golden State was going those last games, how Cleveland attracts to the teams, that this is probably going to be a domination. But it's always good to be wrong and just giving a little bit of that. Like hockey is definitely a little bit more competitive than the NBA Finals right now. But as I've said, that ebbs and flows. You definitely had the surprise with Nashville making it. The drama is definitely there. Although I think a redemption story is way better than I think of the redemption. You have a couple of dual storylines in both games. You have the redemption story with Golden State. You have giving Cleveland their first back-to-back titles over there, which probably will not happen. But you have that, and then you have Nashville trying to win something for the state of Tennessee for the first time, and you have Pittsburgh just trying to regain dominance. But I definitely.
They're trying to win back to back as well in Pittsburgh.
But I got to somewhat give it to hockey and begrudgingly admit that for once, for the first time in the history of this podcast, I'm actually going to say Charles Barkley was right about something. But that's the last time that's going to happen.
Also, Charles Barkley was on Game 4 on an intermission break.
Yeah, that's when he admitted he was drunk, right? But since we're on it, we're gonna let Matt do his baseball and hockey rant. What we're gonna call it. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank God it's halftime right now. I wouldn't call it a rant. Let's put it this way. I think Game 6, I believe it's tomorrow. Either tomorrow or Sunday, one of the two, in Nashville. And yes, the Cup will be in Nashville. So I expect Nashville. I did say Pittsburgh will win the 6th. I did say that. However, Pittsburgh, no. But I expect Nashville to really rebound from that 6-0 drubbing from game 5, and it was just terrible. It was just first two periods was just ugh. So I mean the Cup will be in the house this weekend in Nashville. Yes, the Cup will be there. The question is, will it be presented in Nashville, where Pittsburgh's will win, or is it presented in Pittsburgh, where it's anybody's Cup? Just a historical note or fact, basically. of all the four sports, baseball with the Commissioner's Trophy, NBA and their trophy, the World Series trophy, the Stanley Cup is the most coveted and the most prized trophy of them all. Believe it or not, by you, not only you get a ring, but your name is engraved on that cup. So, to understand not only the history of the Stanley Cup, because it grew rings and pretty much stopped, but the fact of the matter is, your name is literally engraved in history and it's there forever. It cannot be removed or anything that matters. Something like 3 mistakes or 3 typos on that Stanley Cup. But other than that, that thing is literally the holy grail of hockey. I mean, you think about it, no wonder everybody and their mom wants to fight for this thing. Okay, so I'm gonna lay off. I'm gonna lay off on baseball for today, but I would like to say, for the one thing about this series I like more than anything else is the goaltending, with the exception of Game 5. The goaltending has been excellent. The goaltending literally has been like it's theater. It really is theater. So if you have not watched this series, Game 6 in Nashville has to be the game you have to watch. One storyline that was neglected was the fact of Nashville's coach Peter Laviolette is back in his 3rd Stanley Cup. Won one in Carolina, lost one with the Flyers, and now he's back. So, and him and the Penguins, he already knows what's up. So, I totally, honestly expect that Nashville really turns around and forces Game 7. If not, they're gonna have to present that cup to Pittsburgh in Nashville. So, no baseball today. I'm in finals mode, so we need baseball next week. So, Colin, off to you.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna give the basketball talk a little bit of a rest. We'll go to something else before we end with basketball because we're in finals, we're in championship mode, as Matt said. So it's gonna be finals in hockey, I guess, until the games are over. Which for basketball, especially if this result holds, will probably be Monday when the Warriors can just destroy.
Don't you dare speak that into fruition.
What, Monday? Listen. There are 2 more quarters left, and like I said, 18, because that's what the deficit is. That's not enough against the Warriors. The Cavs will tire out eventually, but as I said, we're gonna move on to some football, and we're gonna hit some serious topics real quick. So we'll start in college. So guys, it came out that we have a couple of Michigan State players that Baylor that accepted the competition with Baylor of who could ruin college football season, their football team's college football season before it even starts, as 2 or 3 Michigan State players were arrested for sexual assaults. The question on the floor for the good gentlemen are, why is it always football players that are involved in domestic or sexual assaults? And just before y'all answer, this is not a disclaimer. This is not saying that none of us are unfairly targeting football players. We are just noticing the trend that it seems that most of this is not saying that basketball, baseball, hockey players don't commit domestic or sexual assaults. They definitely do. But it's that the rate seems higher if you are a football player. So with that being said, and that disclaimer out there, and the other disclaimer is we are all in here Christian men, and we are in support of, or we are against, not in support, we are against sexual assault and domestic violence and anything any violence against women. So with those two disclaimers being out there, go ahead, Matt. We'll just go down the line.
Believe it or not, and you're right, it's happening mostly to football players. I'm more interested in the root cause of what's going on with football players. I'm much more concerned about, the mindset and the thought processing of it all. The one thing that really bothers me personally is first of all, with football players, you're dealing with about 50 to about 70, 80 guys versus basketball is 11, baseball is 15 to 20 guys. It's only 25. But, this is where accountability on a smaller scale is much more successful versus you have 80 different guys to pretty much account for. And football players, I think, and I really do believe. I'm gonna start in theory, and I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. In theory, have I think something's wrong. Something's going on. I mean, something's with their brain, and I think that's something that needs to be researched. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Because this happens mostly to football players, not mostly in college, but you do hear about it here in the NFL as well. So head injury, head injuries is the biggest thing here. Also, there has to be some type of mentoring program in these big schools because you're looking at these kids are there just many of them are there just to play football and nothing else. But however, if you don't have a mentoring program in place to where you're looking out for these athletes to make sure they make the right decisions because they are representing their respective school, their universities and colleges. And anything you do, no matter, you can be playing, not even playing sports, you can be playing music, you can be doing something on the academic side of things. You are representing the university that you are going to school for. Bottom line. And people have to understand that. So with that being said, I think there's something going on. I think a lot of head injuries are playing a major part of that. So that's my theory. But I think research needs to be done because of it.
Trey, it's on you.
I can't really speak as a player, to be honest, because I only really played 1 year, and that was in 6th grade. What I'll say about football, though, is it a lot of times in football, you kind of have this confidence about yourself, especially on these bigger schools. Like people play for like the the Baylors and any other very large Division I school, especially if you're a top player, like for example, a guy like Joe Mixon who went to Oklahoma. You maybe you think you're all that, right? And so you think you can do what you want, or you think you should get what you want, and you don't, right? And so when that happens, sometimes some people do stupid things, right? And I think not in every case. A lot of these people are still kids. A lot of these players are still kids, and so they make a dumb decision, right? they force themselves on somebody, or they get angry and they hit somebody when they shouldn't have hit the person. And I mean, I don't know if there's a culture of domestic abuse. I think we can say that on certain campus maybe there is, or not, or excuse me, a not domestic abuse, but sexual abuse. I don't know. I don't know if it's indicative. I wouldn't say it's indicative to football or football culture, but it's definitely something that's. I mean, it's definitely an issue that we see, and almost it seems as if it's always with the football player, where they're in a situation of domestic abuse or sexual abuse. Within the last couple of years, we've seen 3 major incidents. You had Ray Rice with his fiance, Adrian Peterson with his son, and the domestic abuse case. You had what's his name? Wow, I can't think of his name. But yeah, Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, and a few other players actually. You can even go look at the case with Greg Hardy on the Cowboys. But I wouldn't say it's indicative of football, but it seems like it happens a lot in football, and I don't have an answer for that, why that happens. But it happens, and I mean, what needs to go on is that some of these people, especially the younger players on these teams, need mentors. They need somebody to look up to and kind of, just be a mentor, be someone who can hold them accountable, and say, hey, you were supposed to be here last night. Somebody else told me that you weren't there. Were you here? Or, hey, you seem angry. Why are you angry? Right. Or, hey, your anger is going to get you in trouble, that type of thing. Some of these guys don't have a father figure in their life. A lot of these guys, you just look at the makeup of most football teams now. Majority of them are black guys, right? And we know that I think it's something like 70% of black men don't have a father figure in their life, which is a shame, but that's the truth. So, a lot of these issues stem from, it's a number of issues. I could continue listing other issues that could potentially have to do with why it seems like this happens, particularly in football so much. But it all when it comes down to it, situations of domestic and sexual abuse are they're unfortunate events, and men and women have to work to make sure that these things don't happen. Be aware of language that we use. Be aware of body language. You got to be aware of how you react to certain things. You got to be aware of, in particular, in terms of sexual assault, you have to be aware of, your surroundings and how you relate when it comes to flirting and all that with women. So there's no clean cut solution, but it is apparent that this happens a lot in football in particular.
See, Trey and Matt approached this from a very serious perspective, and they hit on a lot of points. But I'm gonna hit on the point that I don't think is really talked about, and I think it's only talked about once these cases start piling up, as it did in Baylor. You must blame the school. Uh, every time something serious, we talked about it when we went on this podcast. We touched on the Penn State situation and all this stuff. You must blame, if not because it's not often some of these cases where you have the president and all that stuff involved of the school. Is usually the ADs and other people who see money in these players, and they will, and for them, like we say, love covers a multitude. In this case, money covers a multitude, right? So because these players make all this money for the school, we saw it with Baylor. We saw the AD, the chancellor, and a bunch of other people who, ironically, their chancellor was one of the lawyers that got Clinton to resign. Well, not resign, but almost got Clinton impeached. And
Ken Starr.
or did get Clinton impeached. And it turns out that he was over here being a hypocrite himself, because the same things that he got Clinton for is something that he was covering up at his school. Ain't nobody a bigger hypocrite when it comes to sexual assault prosecutions than the man that had the balls to prosecute Clinton.
His name is Ken Starr.
I know. But then couldn't prosecute small time football players on a college football field. Right? So, they both brought up good points. It is on the parents, it is on the different things, maybe on some head injuries as far as concussions. But to me, the number one factor is these players think they can get away with murder, and in some cases probably have gotten away with murder because these schools value their talent on the football field more than they value their morals. And that this happens a lot. Like they value, morals. Money trumps morals. It's like business. Money trumps morals, right? And maybe this will decline. Maybe the sexual assault stuff will start. I doubt it will, but maybe it'll start declining once the movement gets bigger and they actually start paying the players, right? Maybe that's when it'll start being real or something. Maybe that's when it'll change. I don't know. There's no solid answer for it. But one of the things that I know could be a solid answer for it is if instead of punishing the football program, the NCAA started doing more to these schools that allow these players to do stuff. I'm not just talking about doing what they did to Penn State because that was just a football program. But if you take the punishment that you would do to a football program, a basketball program, a track program, whatever type of program would do something like this, if you took that punishment and you said, all right, instead of punishing the athletic program, this is what we're going to do. We're going to establish a board, and maybe it'll be led through the NCAA, because a lot of things starts with athletics and then transfers out. Maybe you could have a review board to review sexual assaults, whether they involve athletes or not, right? And then the specific job of that board is to punish the schools, not the programs, the schools, right? If that's taking scholarships away, and I know this might be going too far because it's punishing students that have nothing to do with it, but you got to find a way to punish these schools, because most of the time these schools just get a slap on the wrist. They get bad PR, and don't get me wrong, bad PR is bad for anybody, but for these schools, it really doesn't cost them nothing, because what they can say is they can get rid of the kid, give his scholarship to somebody else, and most of the times they don't get rid of the kid until he's in jail. He or she is in jail, because we're not going to pretend like there aren't sexual assaults that happen that involve women too, right? But you have the different things with that too. So like you can't. I think the punishment should start at the college. Instead of punishing the programs, we should punish the schools themselves for covering it up. Because most of the time when you find football players or any kind of athlete getting arrested, you find a very, very permissive school that hides it. So I'm going to let the gentleman back in.
I mean, go ahead, Matt.
Well, my thing is simply this, and the bottom line is simply this: you got programs have to be aware of what's going on. and you can sit here and collect money from whatever it is you collect the money from, and you're not keeping your people accountable. That you have a serious problem with your set program. So with with so with that being said, account the NCAA can only do so much. It's only an entity by itself. The NCAA can only do whatever, but they're interested in making money. You know this. They're very interested in making money off of literally free labor. Let's call it for what it is. That's another story for another day. But they have to really just have to find a way to make a program or something. So it, something has got to give.
Yeah, I'll say this. It's uh, as far as like punishing programs or punishing the school itself. Um, a lot of these schools, um, you know, like you were saying, Kylan, making they're making money and getting money off of these athletes. A lot of times ends up trumping um, the immorality of the sexual abuse or domestic cases because what happens is they're like, okay, a lot of the especially sexual this is particularly sexual assault where a woman says a man did this or did this, right, and everybody thinks she's lying, right, or you have victim blaming and all that type of stuff, and a lot of that happens on college campuses in particular. And so when that, I mean, it's not just punishing the school will help, but there's a number of other issues that where this larger issue stems from.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you, Trey. But I definitely think punishing the school is a start because, like I said, and I know Matt will say that, yeah, it is definitely about money. But this is why I said that we need to do something because the old way isn't working, right? The old way of just publicly shaming these schools. You do have these schools where they have legal jeopardy and legal trouble because Vice President Biden and President Obama, something that they did do was they established the Clery Act, which means that these campuses must report sexual assaults on their campus. But how did they get around it? How did they get around that? They underreported. And since most of these sexual assaults happen most of the time because of the athletes, they underreported, right? And so again, there's no punishment for violation of the law because there's no consequence because these schools know that, or they can push it on, sort of like some members of the government do. They push it on to the lower workers who can do the time. But if you actually punish these schools and you remove scholarships, and I know that you can't do that because some of these schools are public, some of these schools are private, but you can make it so they can't hide behind their designation of schools. You could just make it a federal law. Even the private schools have to abide by the federal law. And I know that's Congress, but you gotta do something. Maybe you can put it in the Clery Act that if you don't report things, we take scholarships away. Doesn't necessarily have to be athletic scholarships. We just take your scholarships. We take your money that you use for scholarships and put it to a charity that raises awareness of sexual assault. Please, you can do something. You have to affect the money, right? That truly is the only way that these schools are going to get it, right? You sending the kid to jail, which I'm for 100%. They go to jail. They did it. Go to jail. Fine. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time, right? But You have to do something because bad PR and publicly shaming these schools does not work. It continues everywhere. Started at Baylor, now it's at Michigan State. Now I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop on a college campus. When will not just the NCAA, but the federal government start putting the money where their mouths are? Obama started it. It's probably not going to happen under this administration. But somebody has to say, okay, publicly shaming these schools doesn't work because money over morals. So maybe if we maybe if we strengthen the Clery Act and take away scholarships and we start punishing the money that these kids make and say you can't use it for athletics, you can't use it for students, you can't use it for anybody. We're taking it. And if you take away enough of these schools' money, public or private, you'll see some changes. So we're going to move on, and we're going to go to will Colin Kaepernick ever be signed? Go ahead, Trey.
Sorry, ask that question again. What question are we on?
Will Colin Kaepernick ever be signed?
Oh, I don't know. It's some teams have expressed interest in him. Might get signed at some point, but I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to think that a quarterback who led a team to the to the Super Bowl, it's now in question whether or not he'll play or he'll get signed. I don't know. He might not. It's really up in the air. If whoever signs him is going to sign him as a backup, I don't see him starting anywhere in the NBA, in the NFL. The only place I really could see him possibly starting is on the Rams. And they drafted what's his name last year?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, right? And as of now, that was a bust. So if I was the Rams, I would go for him, just to have veteran leadership on the team, and kind of show Jared Goff the ropes, even if they think that Jared Goff is still their future quarterback. I want Colin Kaepernick to get signed. I'm not going to get into the politics of it because we've debated that time and time again about why how what's the word? I'll just say stupid. How stupid it is for somebody to say that he didn't have, to disagree with his right, his constitutional right to not, stand for the national anthem. If people think that he doesn't deserve to be on the team because of that, then so be it. Because stupid. But I think eventually he'll get signed to a team, even if it happens sometime mid-season. It'll happen because there's injuries and stuff like that, so it'll happen eventually.
Matt, it's on you.
I'm like hyped about this game right now. Look, he may get signed. I hope he does get signed by spring, by training camp. However, other than like you said, the LA Rams, in Cleveland, the Browns can't even hold on to a quarterback to say they're alive right now. So, I think he will be signed, but it's gonna be until till training camp. hopefully. But like I said, this is a. Forgive me because I'm watching this nonsense.
Yeah, I'm watching it too. I'm trying to kick out Draymond Green.
Yeah, stupid. But trying
Well,
to
they,
give him a second flagrant. Come on now. No, a second technical.
they gotta make sure it goes to Monday. So
Uh, oh, Golden State wins this game. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The thing is simply this. I hope he does get signed. I don't know if he will be signed by a football team, I hope that he does get signed. He is a model athlete, model citizen. I mean, to some people, outspoken. But you know what? This man has literally done nothing illegal, but just speak his mind, protested against police brutality, and literally sparked another conversation that we've been avoiding for 50 years now. You know, and say, well, this has no place. I'm sorry to tell you, even, even though we try to get away from our problems, I'm sorry to tell you, the problems are still there. And you're seeing, I remember when Ferguson happened and the then St. Louis Rams, receivers came out to tell them with their hands up. And I think one law enforcement official, one say that you pretty much you need to be a good boy and pretty much play football. What Colin Kaepernick did, he used his platform, he used it right. Unfortunately, people didn't like it. And the way I feel is this: if you don't like it, that shows you got a serious problem with yourself. So I'm sorry. This man's trying to make attention to something that's been a blanket for quite some time. Oh, by the way, game 4 is sloppy, straight out. But anyway, he should be signed. He better get signed. I mean, unfortunately for us as Eagles fans, we don't have enough room. We got Carson Wentz and Nick Foles right now. It is what it is. But I hope that he does get signed. So that's where I'm at.
as far as me, I definitely hope he gets signed. Uh, I definitely I want him to get signed, but the whole will it or won't it happen? Hopefully, it'll happen by training camp. Uh, well, I'm watching this game too, and I'm just thinking that the Warriors are going to get them next game. But there is what to say? A negative stigma on Colin Kaepernick for using his platform the right way. And if teams are afraid of that, now teams that don't have a legitimate excuse like the Eagles have enough quarterbacks, so they obviously are not going to sign him because I assume that the Eagles needed a quarterback, much like they did with Michael Vick, as I pointed to last podcast, or I guess the podcast before that. The Eagles would have signed him, but since they have no need for a quarterback, unless they get rid of Nick Foles, which I could totally see them doing, they will not sign him. And I know somebody on the NFL Network suggested that the Eagles should sign him because Colin Kaepernick is better than, some idiot on the NFL Network suggested that because, he is, they think he's better than all the quarterbacks currently on our roster. To which I would say that, Nick Foles is the person that we're building our future around. And as much as I would love for Colin Kaepernick to be on our roster.
Don't you mean Carson Wentz?
As much as I would love Colin Kaepernick to be on our roster. And you know, uh, when you have all that stuff going on, but you know there is proper ways to do things, and unfortunately for Colin Kaepernick, I guess he chose the wrong sport to protest in. You know, it just shows that these owners really don't understand. Sort of like the old school song by Will Smith, "Parents just don't understand." These owners don't understand. They don't see money in this because all they're concerned about is negative PR. This is the opposite example of what I'm talking about, where the NFL owners are afraid of getting publicly shamed, and colleges are not. Right. This is the opposite example of that. Right. And I hate that Colin Kaepernick is an example because he's obviously a great player who needs a home, and hopefully a team will give it. I can think of a couple of teams. There's some in the state of Ohio. There's one in the state of Ohio, one in the state of Florida, actually two in the state of Florida, because Miami and Jacksonville could use him. I could think of a bunch of teams. New York Jets, the New York Giants, they need a backup. I could think of a bunch of teams that need a quarterback. And look, they're right on cue. There's Cleveland's turnovers, but I can think of a bunch of teams that need a quarterback that should sign them, but their owners are scared. But as I pointed out last night, with the one owner that had the balls to talk about it, that owner had a domestic abuser on his team that was a kicker, so he had no right to talk about bad PR, right? But it is what it is. Colin Kaepernick, unfortunately, is a victim of the NFL and the negative views that it has because they're afraid of, oh my God, we want our teams to have all robots and not have somebody that thinks and wants to use their platform in the right way. But we've done the politics of it enough. I just named three teams that can use them but won't sign them. So unless
Oh, oh no! See, what's this? What it is? It's like it's more of you don't follow their good boy system, as I will call it. Because like, look, it's being a model citizen their way. It's like doing all these charities, opening up these foundations, and blah 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 blah. Cap just took it a step further, and no one, and a certain percentage of the American population just don't like it. So, my thing is simply this: I've said it once, I've said it again. It's my athlete. There's no way in God's green earth he should be blackballed like this. If it's because he's black, I don't want to hear that too. I'll take you back as far as the AFL. The AFL was more geared towards historically black colleges and universities because they had to in order to survive. You couldn't have a racist bone in your body. Just couldn't.
not to not
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off, Matt, but I promise I'll let you finish. But a league that wants to claim Jim Brown can't then not claim Colin Kaepernick. You can go ahead.
Good point. Because also a lot of players in the AFL, when they had the All-Star game in New Orleans, because they were looking to put a franchise in New Orleans, a lot of those players had to be, and I think did not play the game or walked out the game or something like that. I can't remember the story for sure, but they spoke up because of the injustice that's going on to them. And this is the 60s. This is the mid to late 60s. So that's where my mind is at. This is nothing new for football. We can't sit here and act like it's new. It is not. So that's where my mind is. That's where this league is. It's like Stop playing stupid. History has said has dictated it. Come on.
Trey, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. All right, guys, we'll move on. So, Adam Silver was doing the rounds because it's starting to wind down. Whether it's today or tomorrow or Monday, Lord willing, we will have a champion. He said something, an interesting quote. He said that it's time for the NBA to rethink. I think rethink is what he said. Rethink the one and done rule. So, fellas, I will take that and say, should the NBA get rid of the one and done rule? Trey, go ahead.
See, I'm of the I'm not against the one and done rule. Well, I'm not totally against it. I'm of the opinion that I think that these guys should go ahead and get their get their degrees, get the college experience. For me, I would want to be a part of a team for 4 years, right? But for some players, from the other perspective, the one and done rule helps players because, what if they're required to stay, let's say 2 years or 3 years, get injured or a serious like a career-ending injury, and they maybe they still go to the NBA, but they lose millions and millions of dollars. I think what the NBA needs to put in place is some type of. I like how I don't know if they do it in the NBA, but I know in the NFL they have like the like little conference or whatever that they have for all the rookies, where they'll have like somebody will come in and speak to them
Rookie
about
symposium.
right the symposium. So I think the NBA needs something like that, or if they're going to get rid of the one and done rule. Not every player who comes into the NBA right out of high school is going to be they're not all going to be immature, but a lot of players are going to come into the NBA immature and not going to be ready to handle making however much money they're going to be making a year, 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year. Just especially those players who get drafted to places like LA, and big party areas. So I mean, I don't have a problem if they get rid of it, or if they kind of tweak the one and done rule. I don't care. I think what needs to be put in place is more mentoring and it is a professional league, right? You're not babysitting people. But I think something like a rookie symposium would be nice. If let's say they do decide to get rid of the one and done rule, go back to what it was before. Just so that you don't have it's a what's the word? It's a I mean, I can't think of the word. I can't think of the word I want to use. But in terms of branding, I think it would help the NBA if you have some sort of rookie symposium and you show an interest in making sure that these and a lot of them are black these players coming to the NBA that they're well prepared to be a professional or an NBA player. So that's all I really have to say about that.
Matt, it's all you.
Now, I'm not a fan of it because here's the deal. You have you have baseball who has a minor league system. Like you get drafted to college and high school. Same thing for hockey, minor league system. For the NBA, I know they have the D League and everything else. But I think some of the rules and the things could be changed or enhanced to where as though you can actually save your money. You can actually save your money and like, look, we're going to draft you. However, we're going to send you to the D League as a football minor league, or have another league in say Europe or somewhere, to where as though they can I want to say breed to better their game. There's so much money in the game of basketball right now. There's so much money in the game of basketball. It's ridiculous. And you can expand that money to these smaller cities here in the country and in other countries in the world that could profit from this. So the goal is to get to the NBA.
I'm sorry, Matt. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just looking at the game right here, and this little scuffle right here. Zaza Pachulia throwing punches at people's private area.
Well, that's because Iman Shumpert stopped him while he was on the ground.
Well, I mean, you don't ever take a shot at someone's private, so
Nah,
stumping somebody or not. I mean, remember what happened last year? LeBron stumped over Draymond Green. Draymond Green tried to hit him in his nuts, and guess who got ejected and suspended for a game?
Yeah, but that was different. That was LeBron James. This is Iman Shumpert.
Matt, go ahead.
I think I'll watch this nonsense too. This is only the third quarter. 1:10 left in the third.
And it's only a 16-point. You have to be worried if you're Cleveland that you could expand your lead.
This is what happens when you don't make free throws. Anyway, the bottom line is this: there should not be one and done rule. And college basketball's got better because of it. Don't get me wrong, but once you leave high school, you either go to school or you go to work. That's the way it is. You can't force it.
What the heck is going on here? They didn't kick out a fan now.
Yeah, they're a fan.
Yeah, apparently it looked like they were fighting or something on the sidelines. I don't know. They didn't show it. But David West is upset, so maybe they tried to attack David West or something. I don't know. I'm not even sure. But,
only in Cleveland.
Listen, they're not used to championships. Go ahead, Matt. Finish your thought.
This is bizarre. Really bizarre.
No way Zaza Pachulia shouldn't win this, but we'll see.
To short this point up, the NBA should, like I've said before, they have the D League. I don't know if every team has a team in the D League. I don't know, but sugar honey. But like I said, the D League should be expanded to a full-blown minor league system. A full-blown minor league system. That way, you have guys who aren't ready, who are not NBA ready yet, as far as the rigors of an 82-game season. And now on top of that, they can save the money. Well, that's Cavs. That was Golden State ball, but teams can save money just by that, and then instead of giving him like millions of dollars on a contract where it becomes a bust and then you're screwed. So that's my point.
Yeah, as far as me, I'm kind of against the one and done rule just because for every player that you think is LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or Moses Malone or any of those guys, there's a lot that are not. Kwame Brown comes to mind. There are. I think that much like the NFL, it should be a two and done rule or a three and done rule. And I know, some people are probably going to call me a hypocrite for saying that because I am pro players getting things done, what they need and everything. But as far as when I look at, and I'm a basketball fan, pure always. But to me, and I've said this on this podcast before, college basketball is a lot more interesting to me than the NBA. And that's because there's a lot more going on there. There's no quote unquote super teams in college basketball. For real. They're just good teams and okay teams depending on the year. And I think that college basketball needs to be what it always should have been. And this is why I hope they pay the players. That college basketball should be a place for players to become involved and go to the NBA league ready. And I don't think a lot of players go to the NBA league ready. And these last two draft class have really proven that. The three most recognizable faces that are actually doing something, two are on the 76ers, and the other one, well, four really. Two are on the 76ers, one is in Minnesota, and the other one's in Phoenix. Devin, and to those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Jahlil Okafor, and Joel Embiid. Those are the four recognizable faces from the last two draft classes that are actually doing something in the league. Everybody else is subpar or on the bench somewhere, right? So and that's really why a lot of people are reevaluating the one and done rule, because up until this draft class, they've had draft classes of very bad draft classes where only 4 or 5 players from those draft classes are actually doing something. That's why they're reconsidering the one and done rule, because they found that these people come in and they're just not where we expect them to be, And is that the fault of the player? No, I can't blame the player for making a good decision for them, because because they are really good at college basketball, and a lot of them think that's going to translate into the league, but oftentimes it doesn't. And we will see what happens with this year's draft class, although we do expect it to be very top heavy, right? But a lot of times I remember a lot of people say those last two drafts were deep. But then now, 2-3 years later, we're looking at it and saying, well, there's really only 4 players that are recognizable. They're doing well. And like I said, 2 are right here in Philadelphia for those last 2 draft classes. And, there is such a thing. When you look at all those players that I just named, all of them are one and done players. And, of all of them, until Jahlil Okafor is the only one that won Rookie of the Year so far out of all 4 of them. And 3 of those players were in his draft class, and Joel Embiid was the year before that. So you have all that, and I just think that when you look at the analytics of it with these last 2 draft classes, where you have 4 players of 30-some picks, and only 4 of them have done well, that's really not a good percentage. But again, this may be a little bit of an overreaction on the commissioner's part. But I'm sure he's looked at the analytics of it, looked at the different things that are going on, and probably came to this conclusion. But to me, I kind of agree with him. I think the one and done rule needs to be reevaluated. I think that they should go with the system in the NBA. I mean, not the NBA, the NFL, where it's a 2 and done, right? So, that's my opinion on it. Guys, if you want to get back in, by all means.
2 and done. Seriously, 2 and done. Have you lost your mind? Look, I think it should be this.
Worse than the other.
2 and done. Have you lost your mind? 2 and done. It's not 3. Look, I'm not against people that want to make the money. I'm not against it at all. But to force anyone to go to college because I'm not saying it's wrong, but the way I feel is going to be this: baseball and hockey. They draft straight out of high school. Been doing this for quite some time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, Matt, but
And
not to cut you off, but there's sort of a difference there because those players are allowed to develop in or the comeback are sort of allowed to develop in the NHL, the MLB. Like nobody is called up right away in the MLB and the NHL unless they're like Sidney Crosby, PK, and good, right? They're not automatically called. They get the spin, so most of the time they come up 25 years old or 24, 23. I don't think there's a lot of 19-year-old, 18-year-olds in the in either the NHL or the MLB that are like.
they're generally in this case, in Major League Baseball, single A rookie ball in Florida. But for the NBA, they need to utilize the D League. There's so much money that could be made there because of this. So that's where in my view, they're misusing the D League. In my opinion, truly misusing it. And there's so much potential to expand it to a football minor league system. This is my view on that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. Ooh, wow, it's 11:30. But I don't disagree with you, Matt. I do agree that they shouldn't use the D League, and actually now that I think about it, the D League could be used for those high school players as well. And I do agree with you on that. That there is a lot of money to be made for the D League. But okay, so I guess Trey is good. So to our last question, right? Our last question because we're gonna watch the game, and then we all have men's breakfast at our church and in leadership meetings after that. So we're gonna cut out soon. But the last question, and this is one from Forbes. Shout out to Forbes. So guys, and I'm trying to keep a straight face when while starting and finishing this question. Do you think the 76ers will become the new dominant team in the East if everything works out? That's the important caveat there. Go ahead, Trey.
I mean, I don't see why not. It's not like the Sixers like have this long history of like just always being bad or something like that. I mean, the Sixers have a fairly good history. So I mean, in the last 5 years or so, we've probably been, or actually have been, the worst team in the NBA. But I mean, I don't see why if things work out with Ben Simmons, if Joel Embiid works out, and whoever they draft this year, if things pan out and they make good decisions in free agency, I don't see why they don't become one of the more dominant teams in the East. And I think it's a perfect time for them, really, because by the time like all of these players that they draft or sign in free agency get to where they need to be in order to bring the Sixers to a championship or to that level, LeBron will be at the end of his career pretty much, and so that kind of opens up the East a little bit more for them. I think by that point, in the East at least, we'll see Giannis will probably be, the guy that everybody's looking at in terms of, he'll be the new LeBron in the East. But other than that, the Sixers, I mean, if things work out, why not?
Matt?
I agree. Well, I agree. I also want that. I mean, look, by the time the Sixers really get good, LeBron will be on the tail end of his career. In reality, So the possibility is there. I don't see why not. I mean, the Sixers is one of the most storied franchises in the NBA, and I can't wait to see this finished product that this 76ers team is going to be. So I think they'll a draft. I hope this is the last. Yes, I hope this is the last lottery that we have to deal with. Honestly, so sky's the limit.
Yeah, listen, I definitely don't disagree. And even though I was laughing, I wasn't laughing at the Sixers per se. I was just laughing at the question and the way Forbes had this article. Like, in the next couple of years, the Sixers will be the dominant team, and I definitely do trust the process, even if I don't necessarily believe in the person with the nickname, the process. I definitely.
Excuse me, he's awesome.
I definitely think that the Sixers, as the points have been made, the Sixers could definitely be a good team, especially by that time. I guess we're thinking that time would be 3 more years from now. So in 2020, 2019, 2020, I guess is what we're saying. That they would be coming into prominence. Uh, I definitely agree. My only concern with that is I think that they are, even if they do form their own big three or big 2.5 or whatever it'll be, with Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, Joel Embiid, and anything else. I still think they need to pick up a free agent to come in and be like the whether they're on the downturn or the upturn of their career, they do need a superstar, kind of like a Gordon Hayward or somebody, to come in and really help those players along, whether that's Kyle Lowry or somebody else. I think that's what they need. That's the missing piece, a veteran presence, a young veteran presence. So maybe the Sixers should go after Paul George or Jimmy Butler, convince them in a year or two to come here. Maybe that'll do it. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Gordon Hayward.
Uh,
Gordon Hayward.
yeah. But they said
That would be a beautiful pickup for the Sixers because he could play shooting guard.
right. But they say the Heat are front runners for him. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy about that. I got a little giddy about that when I saw that article.
But yeah, that's what the Sixers need. They need that piece. But yeah, Ben Simmons. If you're telling me that in those 4 years, or I guess this kind of starts next year, that in the next year that Ben Simmons will be completely healthy, and so will Joel Embiid, and they decide whatever they're doing with Jallo Okafor, whether they're trading him or keeping him, whatever they decide to do. They if you tell me all that pans out and they get a point guard or a shooting guard and they get rid of the stupid idea of having Ben Simmons be Giannis Antetokounmpo, then yeah, I'm with it. 4 years dominance, hopefully some rings. We can get some rings for the Sixers and everything else. I'm happy with that. But we will see. Yeah, that's the end of this podcast that started at 9 o'clock. Got derailed a little bit because we were all watching the finals and still are currently watching the finals. As right now it's a 16-point lead, which I'd like to add is still not enough. But this will probably be the Cavaliers' first confident wire-to-wire win, most likely, unless something catastrophic happens because they're up by 16. Unless the Warriors, which could totally happen, unless Steph Curry and them just start hitting threes out the wazoo and they come back, then it looks like there might be a game 5. No sweeps today, which Matt and I totally called, because Matt actually called this, if it does happen, that the Cavaliers would win game 4. So Matt, you're going to get your credit most likely. I know you probably didn't think it was going to happen when you said it on Tuesday, but it looks like it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm gonna give Matt his props. because everybody gets their props. So yeah, guys, thank you for showing up. Want to thank the fellas for coming out and chilling with me and watching the finals. Y'all definitely have a very good weekend. Deuces.